Was away for a couple of months, as folks know, on parental leave. Probably gonna take a little more time towards the end of the year, but for now, I'm back and happy to be back. Um, I'm happy to get this meeting started. So first, let me do a quick roll call. CB1, I don't think is here yet. CB2, see Valerie online. Valerie, are you there?
I'm here.
Thank you. CB3, CB4, CB5,
Here.
CB6,
Here.
CB7,
Here.
Don't see CB8, CB9,
Here.
CB10, CB11,
Here.
and CB12. Calvin and Tony, she wouldn't be able to attend. All right. Can I get a motion to adopt the Borough Board meeting agenda for today?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
And an adoption of the September 18th minutes with the one change, Sandy, that you flagged. We had the first vice chair here instead of Sandy, that mistake.
You talking about me or?
No, that was a
Me,
flag
that
that
was-
Sandy.
Oh, I had the same flag that mine had the minutes showed you're on Victor, our first vice
Okay.
chair, rather than me.
Okay.
Last month.
With that kind of friendly amendment, can we approve those?
Moved.
Second,
Second.
in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you. Oh. I will try my best to keep the report brief. Really what I wanted to focus on is our training series that's coming up. We look forward to the series every year because we know how important it is to give you and your fellow board members all the tools we can to support you with all the work that you do. One of the things, and first off, I want to say this training series does not happen without Porfirio Figueroa, my deputy. So thank you, Porfirio, for organizing and getting everybody together. We did our best to switch it up as much as we can. I think we want to get away from doing kind of the same presentations each year. All of our trainings live on our YouTube. So if you ever have anyone who has a question about parliamentary procedure or open data, we have those already available on our site. But this year, just to kind of go through it, it starts on Monday. Am I right, Porfirio?
Yes.
Yeah, great. So the training series starts on Monday. We have a presentation from IBO about the budget and how to properly affect the budget from a community board standpoint. That evening, we have conflict of interest. Tuesday, we are very lucky to have Jesus from CB6 giving a presentation about how to archive any documents or any resolutions on Airtable. Again, this is part of our thinking about term limits and how you pass on that institutional knowledge and how these things can still live with the board and not with individual members. That evening, we'll have our combating implicit bias training, which our office recommends for board members, and it's a really great training. I would recommend everybody be there. The 22nd in the afternoon is the only training that we're doing in person. That's with the New York State Department of Homeland Security about emergency preparedness. So folks who come in for that training will be able to be fully versed, at least, in how to deal with like an initial natural disaster or any type of concern that would be an emergency situation. And they'll also get an emergency like to-go bag or go kit when they come in. That evening, we're doing EEO training. And then on Thursday, this is going to be a fun one. We're going to have our person who handles our topography unit, Hector. He's going to give a training about using topography as a tool for boards, which will be interesting. And then that evening, I'm really looking forward to this one. We're going to have HPD and DOB piggyback and give a training about how to navigate their websites. So many times, especially for our district managers, for others, when we're listening to an application about a building or we're hearing from tenants that are dealing with situations, folks just probably don't know how to navigate the portals to actually look at what are the open violations, what program this building may be in, et cetera. So we're going to be getting a training on how to properly find that information on their sites. And then Friday, I think this one is slightly TBD. This is gonna be a training on community board and census data, just I believe the census folks are furloughed. So therefore, we are trying to see if that training is still gonna happen. But other than that, I did want to flag a few more. Hey, good morning. Just flag a few more trainings for folks, which are not coming from our office, but I wanted to amplify. Civic Engagement Commission, I'm not sure if they've reached out to everyone, and just because I'm throwing out a lot of times and dates, I will email all of this to everyone. Civic Engagement has a couple of trainings that they're offering. One is social media outreach. So they're giving training on how to do that. So they're happening at the end of the month. They have language access for community boards. So specifically when we're talking about translation, interpretation, identifying languages spoken in communities, they have those trainings coming up, and then a training for voting rights for people with disabilities. So they wanted me to flag that for all of our boards. We are asking everyone to please, as I said, I will make sure everyone has this via email, but just please disseminate to your members. We just want to make sure folks are registered for our trainings as soon as possible, just so that we are adequately prepared. So that's it for trainings. The one other thing I wanted to mention is we have an event coming up uptown. I believe it's right on the border of your district. We're having a college and career fair. So we're going to have dozens of colleges and also job readiness programs, employers at Borough College on 155th Street. So that's going to be on the 25th, Saturday from 11 to 3, and I'll make sure to send out that flyer. Any questions about the trainings or anything?
Can you tell me if the Civic Commission ones are after like next week, the 20, 21, 22, 23 are all
All of ours.
are all of yours? Are those after that?
They are after. I believe they start. Actually, no, the voting rights for people with disabilities is they're doing 2 of them. And they are on the 21st and 23rd. I think there's a 3rd one on November 1st, but don't call about that one. The other ones are in November. Yeah.
Thank you.
Is there a way to log time that more members actually participate in the trainings so we can get a report back?
Yeah, so we get the Zoom reports after folks have done the trainings.
So it's not, it'd be impossible to share that with us because there's some both new and veteran members that don't attend.
Okay,
That'd be
yeah,
helpful.
we I think the ones that we concern ourselves most with attending is the mandatory ones.
Just COIB and what?
It's COIB, EEO, and implicit bias. The thing about that though, and that's the reason why I don't always rely on that, is we do also have a self-attestation for when people watch the recordings after.
Okay.
So the report usually isn't the most accurate tool, because if someone can't make the training, but they still do sit through it for an hour, we can give them credit.
Yeah,
We asked them to.
A breakdown of that for those that did attend in person.
Yeah, for the ones that attend in person.
And those that attest, it's helpful to have them.
No problem.
Thank you.
We did we did a Google form that asked board members to confirm when they've taken it, because can't chase 50.
I know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I am now going to pass it over to our presenters. So we have DCP here, who's going to be presenting on their principles of, is it good urban design?
Yep.
Okay, great. On that report, and I will also share it over here. If you like, I can scroll through it for you, or whatever you prefer.
Yeah, that's it's fine. If I
Yeah,
ask
happy
you
to
to
do that.
click, yeah.
Please, wherever you like.
All right, great. Well, I think we'll just stay here.
Sure.
Thank you all for making time for us today and for your passion for the built environment. I'm Ryan Jacobson with the Department of City Planning in the Urban Design Office, which is our central division. We work in all five boroughs. We also have Josh and Rich from our Manhattan office working as urban designers. And I kind of start early in this presentation talking about how the Urban Design Office kind of contributes to planning across a variety of aspects of our work. I've been at Department of City Planning for 10 years. I don't know if you guys want to introduce yourself a bit.
Yeah, sure. I've been in the Manhattan office for I think 7 years now.
making, many years prior with private sector?
I've been in Manhattan office for like 9 years, and before that, I was also in the private sector for like a decade.
So we're going to talk about an effort, launched actually over a year ago. The Principles of Good Urban Design guidebook that there's a few copies that are circulating here. I'm going to talk first about kind of who we are as urban design, Department of City Planning, what type of projects we touch. We'll talk about the guidebook and the principles. We have some specific projects from Manhattan we're going to present, and then leave a lot of time for Q&A, as we see that that's definitely like the most rich part of this presentation. So first off, urban designers within city planning, we have really three kind of strategic arms within city planning. We have a borough office in each of the 5 boroughs. We have a strategic planning and neighborhood studies arm, and land use and commissions operations. We have urban designers in each of these different arms within our agency, but we only make up about 10% of the agency. So we're a very small group that is fighting for good, fighting for good urban design. One of the kind of core reasons that we put together this pretty substantial effort is really to convey our core values as we touch so many different types of projects. So if you can go to the next slide. One example of that is design review. When a private application comes to city planning for an action, we have the opportunity to review that private application and steer them before going through the ULURP process. So that's one area where we have the ability to kind of shape design. Citywide initiatives, we touch upon basically every citywide initiative that comes across Department of City Planning. One example of that right now is the industrial plan, which maybe some of you are familiar with. Our urban design office is involved in that plan. Neighborhood planning, so MSMX was the recent Manhattan study that these two spent a lot of time working on. I've been involved in Long Island City, other colleagues in Jamaica. So projects that are all being steered by urban design and the values that we're going to present to you today. We're also heavily involved in civic engagement, working within teams at city planning to really innovate the way that we engage with communities. And lastly, our division puts out research tools and resources. We have a design and brief where we kind of go through different types of topics and put out research on different aspects of urban design. So this is kind of the general, and now we're going to start to get topic specific and start to put out more and more resources. Just to speak to urban design kind of as a practice, the focal point is really people. And if you click to the next slide, really how they experience the built environment as they're moving through the city, how they engage with buildings from different perspectives, how public spaces feel welcome to any individual. It's all aspects of the built environment and how they're experienced by somebody moving through the city. So a lot of our work is really examining from somebody's eye level how they are experiencing different parts of the city in every single neighborhood in New York City. So this is a very all-encompassing, very general document that you're going to see here that tries to basically take into account the context of the highest density in Manhattan all the way to the lowest density in South Brooklyn and Staten Island. So this is meant to be a tool for people like you, for people in the general public who want to advocate for better design in whatever project they are engaging with. This is meant to be a resource very much for the public to engage on the design conversation. If you haven't had any background in architecture or engineering or urban planning, this is meant to give everyone a little bit of design language so that they can enter in to that conversation that takes place during scoping meetings and public hearings, and this is meant to really give people a resource to kind of elevate their own knowledge. With, of course, illustrations, as that's something we're very visual people, and the physical environment is all about kind of the look and how that's experienced by different people. So again, everything in this guide is very, very visual. And these principles are meant to kind of set very broad values for how we collectively see the city functioning better for its residents, better for its visitors, and better for people who are working here. So, you know, shaping a functional, beautiful, and a well-connected city that's working for all. This was a very long effort. In 2021, we started to engage with a very broad variety of stakeholders. We actually presented to each borough board. I believe this was in 2022 during the pandemic. We went to community boards. We had a survey on a website, a video that we created. We held a bunch of roundtable discussions. This was all about a year and a half of engagement with a broad swath of New Yorkers, some who are, you know, really up to speed on design, such as architects and landscape architects and developers, community boards, but also people who are kind of new to design. So we had over 1,500 survey results, kind of people weighing in on their design values, their reaction to urban design. We had some kind of pointed questions, and that's how we got to some of the language that you're going to see kind of throughout the guidebook. I mentioned this earlier. You could go to the next slide. These are four different groupings of stakeholders. This was meant to be our audience, the general public. So that is everyone from an advocate to a community board member. We want to make sure that everyone has the tools and the kind of language to enter into the conversation, as I mentioned before. These are for professionals, so those kind of working in the field who are working, say, on a private application that is coming through Department of City Planning before entering the ULIP process. We've heard from certain architecture professionals that this has really helped them talk to their client about design and make sure that it's not value engineered out of the project. It's for government, so not just city planning, but our sister agencies kind of set high-level values for design. And of course, it's for developers to really give them a clear understanding of where we're coming from when we're reacting to a proposal. Next slide. So these are the four principles here. We're going to end up going through each one of these before I turn it over to Josh and he'll give some examples of how these kind of touch down in Manhattan. But the idea is that these four principles, we have an actionable set of goals in the guidebook for each one, how to kind of bring these to life. And Josh is going to get into how that happens on the ground in Manhattan. If you can click one more time, the first is, again, really at that eye level, enhance people's daily lives. So this is thinking about that experience on the sidewalk. It's kind of through the lens of providing design strategies to improve accessibility and safety in all neighborhoods, mobility and connectivity, comfort and beauty, and then lastly, quality and durability. The second principle is really about process, this kind of rigorous process that we want to make sure every project goes through, engaging with the local community, kind of understanding where that project is grounded, what the history, culture, and identity of that neighborhood is. So this is the second principle, is care for a neighborhood's history, culture, and identity. And this principle is looking at strategies that, see we have a typo on the screen here, that can improve community and diversity, existing networks and uses, natural features and resources, and lastly, building features and form. Principle 3 is to embrace the city's dynamism. We have in New York is a very vibrant and dynamic world capital. Good urban design is meant to really kind of embrace the spirit and the rhythm that we have in this great city, along with the ambitions to spark creativity and resourcefulness. So this principle shares actionable goals on innovation and creativity, flexibility and variety, ways to kind of integrate old and new, and then ways to achieve resourcefulness and tenacity. And then principle 4 is to confront society's greatest challenges. Our city faces, just like many other cities across the country and world, many challenges, from the housing crisis to climate risk to social inequities. This is kind of that catch-all principle that's trying to really push the needle on addressing those major challenges that we face. So there are actionable goals through the lens of sustainability and adaptability, equity and opportunity, health and well-being, and lastly, diversity and mutual understanding. So I'm going to turn it to Josh to explain how some of these land in the context of Manhattan, and then we'll leave a lot of time for Q&A.
Yeah, so we just wanted to illustrate how these, manifest in real life projects across the borough. So this one here, Manhattan West, recent project in Midtown 2023. Not just a great space in its own right. It's flexible with different kinds of seating, high quality materials. Flexibility. There's often an ice skating rink here in the middle in the winter, seasonal kind of activities that happen. But the way that the space itself is shaped and can help inform and assist in navigation of the city and wayfinding, how the buildings kind of frame the way to Penn Station and kind of navigation all the way to the Empire State Building. And if you were to turn around, how this leads your way to the recently completed High Line extension and like connecting into the other urban space. And so it's not just a great space in itself, but it's like interconnected to the larger network of public spaces in the immediate area and beyond. Here we have Inwood, the Inwood Library. You can see at the bottom here, there's the big windows that are where the library is, where there's lots of visibility in there, and it's inviting. You can imagine this same picture at night where that bottom bit is glowing. It's even more inviting. It's also, the balancing the old and the new. There used to be an older library here. It was replaced and integrated into this with a lot more affordable housing, which we desperately need. And that the materials themselves, are quality materials that are that reflect even the color and the material reflect the neighborhood context around it. The next one here on the west side. Infrastructure project. It's like I think this is an interesting one to put up here because it's just a solid ship, but design does matter. It signals not just care about the function, but the identity, and there's a civic identity to this, and that there's long-lasting materials that will last for generations. And then the last one here, the East Side Coastal Resiliency recently opened. I mean, obviously, this one is resiliency goals throughout on here. At high level, it's about climate change and planning for generations of New Yorkers. But even at a detailed level, the ecology of the landscape and the species that are chosen, that they can thrive and also look beautiful. And that this also included, in a lot of projects too, right? Include community input and engagement process throughout that helps shape the design. So the next slide. So this here is the book. You have a copy around in front of you. It's not that long. It's about 60 pages. It's organized. It's again, like Brian said, lots of visual pictures and makes it easy to understand. It's organized into four chapters, roughly the same length, and we'll just quickly go to the next slide and talk about each one. So the first chapter, the first chunk answers three big questions. First one, what is urban design and why is it important? And Ryan talked about this earlier, but it's really how the relationship between physical form and social interaction shape public life. And so like how like the shape and feel of something like makes someone feel. And I think like we all live in apartments. Really narrow, long apartment is gonna like feel very different than a well-proportioned apartment to fill out furniture and stuff, or a public open space. It's not just how many seats there are, it's like the variety that's there, it's are they comfortable, etc. The purpose of the principles, just to emphasize what Ryan already talked about is, these, like, while it's about design, right? Like we're very careful not to talk about aesthetics necessarily, right? But, dozen people here, there's 1,000 different opinions on how something looks, right? And so we want to keep it action-oriented, outcome-driven, because that's how it has staying power in a project and not value engineered out as Ryan alluded to. And then who are they for? They're for everyone. We talked about the four different the key stakeholder groups, but really they're written in a way that they're very accessible. There are shared values and a shared language to talk about design. So someone that is a newcomer to a project, they might feel a little bit unsure about how to talk about design, all the way up to a seasoned principal at an architecture firm, right? And everything in between. They can sort of scale up and scale down as appropriate. So the next slide here, just to give you a sense, I mean, you're flipping through about this year, like how to think like an urban designer, talking about the different scales, everything down from like the comfort of a bench to like, how transit is like intersecting with larger neighborhood plans, etc. The next chapter is the meat of it. These are the principles. And I think that one's pretty self-explanatory. The next slide will give you a sense of how they're organized. So Ryan mentioned 4 bullet points. Each bullet points are kind of thematically organized. There's 4 themes for each principle. Each one has these action items, and again, like they're really outcome-driven, action-based. The principles themselves too. There's an inherent scale. That like 1 might be for small things, and like greatest challenge is a big thing. But it's not to say that like principle 1 can't be about big ideas, and principle 4 can't be about like small things too. It's sort of everything in between. The third chapter is principles in place. So that is highlighting examples across the city. Includes a range of types and scales from public space to neighborhood plan. We just highlighted a kind of like a few random ones. There's a lot of great ones across Manhattan. There's a few across the city, a couple Manhattan based ones in the guidebook now. And we're currently working on adding some more examples and giving an update and refresh to the guidebook. And we plan to continue to add to it over time. And then the last chapter, and here's the example, 26, yeah. So you can see as you're flipping through, you get a project. Here's Sendero Verde, and it's not like one project, one principle. You can see how one project has all kinds of principles embedded in it, from affordability to sustainability, et cetera. And then the last chapter is the resources acknowledgements. This is a lot of technical, process-driven definitions. So like once you've got a kind of grasp on like what all this stuff is, like how do we apply it? So on the next slide is just a basic example of like how to get involved in a project and kind of a flow chart, and there's a lot of like helpful resources at the end of the book. So with that, we'd love to open it up for any questions or discussions.
So folks can scan the QR code if you need it. Anybody have any questions? Tammy?
I know, sorry about that. I noticed in flipping through the design book that on the design guidelines, even in the waterfront project, there's no actual direct connection to the water for waterborne uses versus views and kind of walkways along. Why in good urban design, considering that there's water around almost at every borough, there is a significant amount of water, isn't waterborne uses and maritime uses included in the good urban design?
I think that's a good question. And I don't think that we kind of specifically allude to that. Again, this is meant to be fairly general. That specific project that we use for the open space is adjacent. It's a couple blocks away from a kayak launch. So that's part of why they didn't deliver that sort of amenity in that particular space. But I believe that there's some general language that is listed in the first principle that, you know, we could frame to a if we're seeing a waterfront project come in at city planning, we could kind of use that language to steer a development team to provide that sort of waterborne resource.
There is,
I think
I
there's
asked
also
if
like,
there's nothing in the first principle. I did go back and check just
Okay.
then. There's absolutely nothing that says.
and it's really like you can also leverage like the second principle, understanding community needs. If that's something that comes up in a particular community board, there's a shortage of boat launches or kayak launches or other ways to get in the water. I think that's how we would kind of frame.
And I would say that I think it's a missing design piece that you have is that public access to the water and maritime use for the public versus just private and commercialization is completely missing from anything in here.
Yeah.
Every borough has a significant water component to it, whether it's canal or sound or ocean or bay. And without it, you're alluding to it's not required. There's no notation of it, there's no inclusion of it. And that is one of the greatest losses in New York, is that we are, and especially in Manhattan, we're an island.
Yeah.
And yet people who live and work here and visit, unless you're on a tour boat, you're not often necessarily on.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good point. I think like this, you know, this being like the first draft of the principles, we tried to make them like easy, that they could be, they apply to as many different like contexts as possible. So like while it doesn't like speak specifically to like waterfront, doesn't like say water, doesn't mean that the principles can't be applied to a waterfront project. But you know, that said, I think that, you know, we are keenly aware of like the you know, not just that Manhattan is waterfront, but actually like the other boroughs have more like waterfront development projects, and that is a key issue that we're investigating. We're studying it and taking a, you know, closer look at our rules around waterfront. And I imagine like as we do that and think through and the next update to the principles, that like waterfront starts to become you know, a more forefront feature as one of the things that we're doing.
Thanks.
Just, I think one of the things that we find is the most difficult is navigating all of the different city agencies.
Mm-hmm.
And for instance, the ESCR project, we didn't know that city planning was reviewing it or had a place in it. So, and I don't think, I don't know what place you did have in it, because I think it was the EDC that always came to us.
Or DDC.
Or DDC, well, DDC built it, but, and so, you know, we had the same thing. We wanted waterfront access, but didn't know who would actually implement that. And I think now too, there are aspects of it that we really could do with more urban design aspects, but how would we make sure that that gets implemented?
I guess I can speak to the ESCR project. For the ESCR project, yeah, in DC and DDC, they are the agency. But usually for all other agencies, we will have our interagency meetings. Before they come back to the community board, we will have multiple meetings, and just we will all review them, we will provide our comments, we will provide our feedback, and they will organize it and bring it back to the community. So we are part of that, but just because of the agency, they are usually the one you are talking to. So if public doesn't know, we are actually involved, especially for ESCR, even before they start, right? There's a lot of like planning components which they have to figure out first. Like, so we are actually the DCP is actually one of the first agency review the document. But then when it gets to design, then it will be more like PR there, because they will be maintaining the space. But we are part of it.
And do you look to our district needs statement for principles for how to be implemented?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, and it's a fair point. I think embedded in your question is like that there's just like this very complicated web of like agencies that are like always involved in this, especially bigger complicated projects. And that, you know, one of the one piece of the engagement process with developing these was actually starting to reach out to these other agencies to get their input. And so like in some way, like not directly, but it's like a way to try and kind of consolidate the way of like thinking about design and the way that we talk about it. So that like, it's not like you go talk to parks and they say one thing and then you go to talk to TCP and they say something else, that it starts to like coalesce around like the same thing.
Yeah, just.
Yes, a little bit of process question, similar to the one that was just asked, but does that mean you're only advising on projects or giving that input if a project goes through ULURP?
Necessarily.
No, okay, so how does that, just like mechanically, process wise, like how does that work?
Well, I think like we like most of the stuff that we are like directly involved with, like sitting across the table from a developer is ULURP or like some kind of action that's happening, or like it's assisting with some other agency that's doing whatever. But I think the principles guidebook is really an effort to try and reach outside to like a lot of the other work that's going on that community boards can feel, community boards and elected officials and others that are not like designers can feel more empowered and able to talk about design in ways that can be impactful. So like we're hoping that this can be a resource to like talk confidently with projects that aren't having to go through the ULURP process, but it might be able to offer some kind of change otherwise.
In that case, would you, maybe you've already done this, but to do like trainings on good urban design for our land use committees might be something to consider, because there are the groups that are sitting across from them. I mean, you use Manhattan West, but I mean, the West Side, CB4, and we have 2 land use committees that are directly, again, mostly on ULURP, but not only. And so it would be good for them to be able to speak use your tool to speak confidently to the range of groups.
Yeah, I was going to invite you to come present to our land use, and maybe even possibly our full board would be a better opportunity. We obviously with ULURP and with the city charter revisions that are proposed by the mayor and the challenges that presents, especially given that we've had our rezoning in 2017, you recall, rather rancorous affair, if you will. I think also weighing it out, the difference between ULURP action items and those where your community board can learn how to insert influence. And I'll give a case in point here at the table with Children's Aid Society on 101st and Lex. That was an as of right, I think it was an R7A, and the guy, the developers, his first development in Manhattan, and the CEO at the time did not know she was selling off all of the main Manhattan properties to then buy the headquarters on 125th. Not realizing that location was the Vatican for Children's Aid and the one safe space for the kids from all of the housing developments. No beefs were allowed. I mean, there was a lot of a very storied history, but we were able to come to bed together. And I think how this can play a part, not just with the design aspect, but how we see the visioning, and we were able to insert ourselves into that conversation to have Children's Aid return. Get one of our other stakeholders, Mount Sinai, to lease the majority there with non-compete services. So I think how that can dovetail with what you're presenting here would be a helpful augmentation, if you will. So.
Unless anyone has any other questions, I will pass it to Tammy for another.
Sorry, but I did notice when you're taking a look in the guidelines, we are an area with a ton of historic districts and a ton of landmarks. So what I don't understand from your good urban design principles is it does put neighborhood character and everything second. So how do your guidelines work and fit within what you're telling developers who have to go in front of LPC? Do any of your guidelines supersede the LPC rules and guidelines for historic districts and historic buildings? And if so, how does it change how LPC will be ruling?
It definitely doesn't supersede. I mean, like LPCs, it's their charter and like they have their own process. I think that we speak to it as like a balance of old and new. So like there is a recognition that like there are historic districts, but there's also like what makes New York City great is this constant change. And it's like constantly evolving, like the make and remake of the city. And like we want to we want to be able to have that change and keep that memory, and how we balance that is, there's lots of different ways to do that, but there are, I think, a few principles that speak specifically to like how to talk about that. And I think like LPC, when we had to deal with them in the past, they were very receptive to even like very modern things. Years ago, I forget, but it was they really liked the modern bit in contrast to the older structure, because it helped like distinguish the two pieces. So it doesn't supersede. I think it complements in a lot of ways.
I did notice from a lot of your design guidelines and the imagery that you've used, it's a lot of concrete and there's a lot of hard surface. The conversations about climate and urban heat, I didn't see anything reflective in the language in the booklet, which could be timely, I guess, depending on if you're looking at administrations and things like that, but doesn't change the facts of concrete versus natural and porous pavers and things like that. I didn't see any kind of conversation in any of the things, and I could have missed it, so I'm hoping it's here somewhere. But for the built environment to lower the heat of the city versus raising it.
There's definitely one that speaks specifically to the heat island somewhere. And it mentions green roofs and rain gardens, and like one of the projects I almost included in here was the Javits Center, Javits expansion, with like the top there. But yeah, I mean, it's a big thing that in a lot of the projects that we intersect with at city planning, like we're pushing a lot for that. A lot of it falls on TOT and in the street, but like pushing them to.
I was actually thinking more like the public spaces that you showed were mostly hard surface painted with a couple planters and seating, but everybody loves a tree.
Yeah, we talk about the importance of tree cover in principle 1. We talk about durability in principle 1. We talk about urban heat in principle 4. So it's kind of nested throughout. It's just, again, these are meant to be very general, like in kind of high level values and principles, but when we get into the actual, we want to be able to have a frame for when if we're seeing a proposal, have a frame for what we're commenting on. We get very specific about, we don't really typically, we're not able to lock in materiality in our review. Our review is the step before that. Maybe if Parks is reviewing something, they are going to talk about materialities, PDC, but we're not that agency. So we touch a little bit on materiality in this because we value materiality, but we can't go too deep on that.
And is the goal for the principles of good urban design to have a framework that DCP then evaluates everything looking forward as your checklist, whether it's ULURP, BSA, or any of the other things that come before? But
yeah, I would say yes. However, we've had a difficult time, and we want to make sure that this is not a prescriptive checklist.
That's why
that it's something that is dynamic and being updated over time, changing over time, can be applied to different contexts. So it's very difficult because this is a citywide kind of set of values for us to have a checklist that every project has to meet these principles. The principles have to adapt to the different contexts. Yeah. So yes, it is a framework, but I think the intention at this point, and we've been asked by a lot of different entities, can you create a checklist? And we've tried, and it's just not something that so far we see as a good tool for like the city planning commission, or for community boards. There's one and community members, there's one spread that's towards the end in the resources chapter that just lists out a bunch of questions that you can ask if a project is presented in your neighborhood. And I think that's kind of what the detailed bullet points under each principle, each of those could be changed into a question that's coming from, like, we want this to be an advocacy tool, not necessarily a kind of prescriptive checklist.
Thank you.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
We're running out of time and I know, I want to be respectful of your time and I know folks are gonna have to go soon. But is it okay if we share out this presentation and their contact info? Because I know a few folks want to connect about going to their full boards or landing.
Yeah. We're gonna make a couple updates. We found a couple typos, but we'll send you
Okay.
fresh copy.
Really appreciate
Yeah.
it. Thank you for your time.
We would really like to hear more.
Thank you.
And yeah, please send an email to us if you'd like us to present at your community board, the land use committee.
Absolutely.
I'll
That's what
connect
it's
with
now.
Andy, yeah,
Well, thank you again. Really appreciate it.
yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.
I will now go into chair reports. It is October, so I will pass it over to Marquise. City 10.
Good morning. Don't have much in the month I start. I'm gonna be very short. Right now, we're dealing with in CB10, just last month I reported that our district manager has left or transitioned, and we have other staff members who are leaving this week. So I'm down to one staff member over the next month as we're looking to hire, and so we have board members. I'm asking to volunteer, and we're really trying to staff our office. So for the next month, I'll probably be in the office a lot. We've been focused heavily on district needs right now as we're preparing our district needs report. And so the last few months, we've been doing surveys, community engagement. We had a forum, and obviously, we're also been assessing and having a lot of conversation. And I don't know, maybe it's something we all, how just analyzing how the federal government is impacting everything. And so those are some of the conversations and dialogues we've been having in committees, because we just don't know. I think we think things are just not predictable, and so as we assess these needs, they just seem to be growing every day. We also, I've had a lot of conversation with committee chairs, as some of them have been very upset that they feel like they get no responses from city agencies. And so we've been really trying to have more dialogue and figure out how do we really get answers when we send letters or share resolutions, and just it goes unanswered. And so that's something we're just going to be focusing on the next few months, and just the follow up and follow through of our resolutions and letters. Last month, just two good things. We had our African American Day Parade in our district, and we marched to the Borough President's office, and we also renamed a street, codenamed after Bill Perkins, former city council member and state senator, which was very big, well attended. So that's all I have.
Thank you. I'll pass it over to Xavier.
Yes, good morning, everyone. I know I'm kind of running on fumes, so few things. Did not get to attend our full board last month because I was stuck in Poland when all the drone nonsense was kicking off. I was there. But will say that had a couple things that popped up that was questions, and I'm very thankful to the general counsel here, Peter Torrey. When there were questions, despite me being involved in the boards for 16, now going on 17 years, about the public hearing. Some board members asserted that, no, I'm also a member of the public, and so I should be able to give testimony when it comes to our statement of district needs or ULURP, and that is factually incorrect. And we now have a ruling from city law that actually that would be violating the quorum. You're there to be the listening, much like the city council when they hold a hearing. So that was something that was brought up. So it was a very, you're there wearing the hat of a board member to listen to the public. So I think that's a very important nuance. So I'll be sending a communication out on that.
Can you share that?
Oh, yeah. Very happy to share. We can do a round robin. Thank you.
Yeah.
Let me. Yeah. So yeah, but it's again this, in this assertion was coming from seasoned members as well.
Yeah.
We had-
Yeah, we have like a rule that if you speak on something in the agenda, then you can't vote on it because you're like not entitled because you've made up your mind ahead of time, but it's.
Wow.
Yeah, so
Really?
that,
Yeah.
and that's exactly
Just did
what
that in
the
our
point
bylaws.
was, is that you'd have to recuse yourself, so it kind of defeats the purpose, so it's one or the other kind of thing. But I'll send that one before we leave.
That applies only to full board, if you.
Yes,
Right,
correct.
So
Yeah.
if you were to give public testimony during the public.
So if you speak during the public session on an item that we're voting on at that night, you are considered an interested party and therefore not entitled to vote when the vote comes before the full board.
can you send me that as well?
And for our board, you're not allowed to speak in the public session if you're a board member.
Wow.
It's.
But you can speak during debate and.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that because you're a privileged position as a board member to speak on the matter that you will be voting on, it's more for the public hearing, the publicly registered speakers. So that I'll round robin, it's in folks,
Thank
saying
you.
thank you. We had an issue with Bodega Paradise on 116th and Park Avenue. Sure, some of you heard about it. It was a strip club. Let's just call it what it is. They came and presented the board claiming that, oh, we're just a sports bar, we're doing this, that and the other. I had a Instagram advertisement sent to me from a concerned community member, the Public Safety and Transportation Chair, Jose Altamirano, our district manager, that I subsequently went to go inspect it. You have the bar out front, and then you go through a separate set of doors, and literally there are little platforms with poles. Adult entertainment, no matter what you say about it, we're not zoned for that. That is a residential district with on 116 with a commercial first floor. This has been very rancorous, very troubling for the community. They came and presented at executive. We spent an hour with the applicant who got very combative. We declined it. There's not going to be a hearing with SLA later this month. I have to look up the date, but yeah. We have seen kind of a downhill slide with what people are trying to pull. And there's a lot of concern because that's impacting our quality of life. So quality of life is still an ongoing issue within East Harlem. We get a litany of complaints, and that is just one specific example. We've completed our new member onboarding. We've continued our housing tours within NYCHA and also to those that are going through the RAD PAC conversion, making sure that the developers and the new managers are being accountable, not booting people out. And making sure they have their rights in case there are challenges to their leases. We had a groundbreaking this week when Rosa Diaz, Russell Schuler, and Sage Mason came with me, joined by Iris Rodriguez, Rosa, the Parks Commissioner, Borough Commissioner Tricia Shimamura, Andrew Kimball, who's the President CEO of EDC, and several others that joined us. That is the Harlem Greenway Park, right? 127th, right near Crackers Whack, and Francis Mastrota was a strong proponent for this development. It's going to be 7 acres of parkland that hopefully will come online in 2 years. We will also have a bathroom there, which is fantastic. So that was a huge success. Yeah, so one last thing that wanted to make everyone here aware. I am very much a staunch constitutionalist when it comes to how we conduct ourselves, whether it's our bylaws or city charter, state. But I'm open to new ideas. During our elections process, because we changed our bylaws, I'm now term limited. I finished December 31st. A couple of board members thought, because there are co-chairs of committees that we see throughout all of our boards, they proposed the idea of, hey, can we run as co-chairs for the board? Now, in the city charter, it's singular in saying a chair, right? Okay, that makes sense, but they had reached out to city law. One member of city law gave them wrong information by stating that, well, if there's nothing in your bylaws that precludes it, then it should be acceptable. That sowed a lot of confusion. I subsequently reached out and then did not get replies month after month. Finally, we sent an official letter with those members concerned, and then it came to my attention that without consulting me, staff member and a vice chair had gone behind my back and contacted them. And we finally got a response when I replied and saying, this is the chair, we need an answer. And this all got looped in and came to light. What this means, though, is what we discovered is that you can't run as a co-chair. The city law has stated that they only want chairs to be the people reaching out to city law.
That's my question.
Ooh.
Yeah. City law has stated, and I have that as well as in writing, that the head agency of community board is the chair and should be the funnel for all questions regarding to city law issues. This is, I always recall it being this way, but we've been a little bit more relaxed. The other thing that they raised, that is very important for all of us is something that we'll need guidance on from Eric. Yeah, I'm moving along. They stated that co-chairs of committees are not proper structure either.
Thank you.
And I know several boards, community boards here have co-chairs, but they said that is incorrect. It should be a chair and vice chair. And they also said that they are not the enforcing agency. So I guess my question is, how would this be handled going forward? So the guidance I'm asking for with this particular matter is we only have one committee with co-chairs. The rest of ours are chair and vice chair. So our structure is preserved, and I'm sending an email tomorrow to the entire body advising them, but I wanted to see counsel, Eric, from people here in the room. How should we best approach this, and how would this be handled going forward?
Thanks.
So we have a chair and a co-chair. The co-chairs of committees operate like a vice chair, right? It's the chair who runs the meeting. But they're called co-chairs, and it's some committees in a way to train new people. We have dual co-chairs.
I'm just a messenger, so I'm asking
So,
for guidance on this.
I guess and that's the way our bylaws are written, like at least one coach. So, yeah.
It's a new question for us, so we'll get more information about it.
Okay. And did city law say that it's the agencies only answer, the agencies or just city law will only answer the chair of the board?
City law stated that the contact for any questions should come from the chair. They also stated in an email that because the people who did not include me got looped in, and they were reminded you need to CC the chair when communicating. Because I was unaware of that while I was trying to avoid making a mountain out of a molehill, which is what eventually happened. So it's important that in communication that, everyone get looped in. So we've had that clarified, but I would like, if you could help us, Eric,
Yeah.
on how that would be handled going forward.
Not DM.
That's what I was gonna.
Yeah, that's what city law said. Yeah.
Wow.
It's only been through our DM for the most part when we contact city law.
Yeah, which is what led to the confusion. So,
We'll try to get some clarity.
thank you so much. Again, it created a lot of turmoil for us.
I know that Catherine was not able to join us today, so I can pass it over to Tammy.
Oh, wow, that went fast. Thanks. This has been one of the most informative borough boards and information dense. I really needed more coffee before I came, but thank you for this presentation and to Xavier for the updates, because that's really a lot. It's a busy weekend all over the city, which I want to, I'm sure I'll see some of you in many places, but we also have a historical event this weekend, which is the celebration of the history of Lower Manhattan done by the Lower Manhattan Historical Society. So if you enjoy history and the fights of Saratoga and Yorktown, please sign up to the historical, and there's a tour of some of the great places in Lower Manhattan, which is neat. I wanted to say that we did a resolution last month that is asking EDC, and we did have a short conversation with them about it, who enters into public access agreements with their leaseors. So whether it's, we have two in our district in particular, Pier 17, which has a public rooftop area as well as bathrooms, and then the Battery Maritime building. There's no posting anywhere of what the public hours are. The public doesn't know, and they give out a private phone number that's, well, if the public has any problems, have them call this person. And that's caused over the decades of the way this has worked, not functionally. And that also means that there's no way for the public to be able to report any issues that are happening. For example, being denied access for any known reason, or any problems that they see with infrastructure that's in the property. So we passed a resolution, and Mark stopped by the meeting, which we were really stoked, and asked him to help us. So I'm marking it for Eric, to get any public access agreement to be listed under 311 where the POPs are. Because it is a privately owned public space, not in the traditional sense of a POPs, but it's a public access agreement. that the public has no way of knowing otherwise. So we're asking that the organizations are required to post the public schedule and the public rights, and that there is tracking and accountability for the public. Because it has gotten to a point that the community board should not be the complaint center where all the complaints come in because people can't get in. And then all we do is go back to the operator and then notify EDC. And when you meet with EDC, the operator says, oh, it's a one-off. How many one-offs do you have until you see a pattern? And I don't think that's the role of the community board. They should be able to file 311 and have the community board support the 311 process. So that's that. We have normal issues everywhere in Lower Manhattan. We had a great meeting last night. 105 Washington came after a year of being open. Like everything else, it's a bumpy road, but we had a great meeting. We had members of the community, we had people online, we had representatives from DHS, Outreach, the shelter, CUCS. So it was very interesting. There's still members of the community who are never going to be happy, and there are members of the community who were very much there, learning data and having information. So as they grow with the neighborhood and the new development that's coming around there, they're here, it's working, we're getting people off the streets, and that's, I think, the most important part of what we do there. We're hoping to do a joint meeting for public information for Canal Street redesign with CB2 and potentially 3, because there's a ton of information, but it's very segmented. So if you're only meeting I take this as, I'll use the intersection of Broadway and Canal as an example. If we're only solving the problems in the first precinct for the street vendors on the west side of the street, then we're not solving the problem on the east side of the street. So then the east side of the street comes to clean up and sweep the street vendors, and they all move to the west side of the street, because all of the vendors know which one is CB1, which one is CB2, which one is the first precinct, which one is the 5th precinct. So we can't get a holistic solution to that. We look at the DOT method for the same conversations. We don't want to have people on one side of Canal Street saying, no, we don't want this, and not listening to their neighbors on the other side of Canal Street. The individual borders that community boards have shouldn't actually be such a hard line in the sand that we don't listen to each other. So that's one of the things that if we can focus on some more partnership like that, I think it'd be better overall for all of us going ahead.
Okay.
And then we have 1,010 resiliency projects that are starting in Lower Manhattan. So Battery Park City Authority is starting their site testing this month, which will start at where Wagner is, the Museum of Jewish Heritage, and go all the way up to Northmore, which is past BMCC on the West Side Highway, down to the top of IPN. So they're starting work. You'll see lots of construction. It extends over to 9A. And anybody who has a CB along 9A, they're looking at potentially partnering to do trial new treatments of the crossings because of the construction. So maybe come and visit when those are done in a couple months. And I'm going to leave it there.
Thank you.
Sure, great, thanks. I won't repeat or go into as much detail on the DOT Canal Street joint meeting that we're working to organize at the end of the month. I'm trying to, they've not been responsive. So we're having Mark follow up on DOT to make sure we can get them on the date we're trying to get them at the end of the month. On Friday, October 31st, I invite everyone or anyone who is in the village area at 3 p.m. on Friday of Halloween. It's the 35th annual NYU CB2 Children's Halloween Parade. I will be the Grand Marshal along with other, making our little way around as the primer to the larger village Halloween parade. So if you're going to be in the area anyways, come early. We are expanding the carnival. It used to be on LaGuardia Place in a smaller intersection between West 3rd and Washington Square Park, but now we're taking over all of West 3rd between LaGuardia Place and Mercer Street. So there's lots of children activities, and there's a really cool tote bag that's a nice book. I highly recommend it. But we're excited about that. It was started by Artie Strickler 35 years ago, who was then the DM of CB2. And then my last item is, and this is more just kind of a broader thing to think about. We're starting to see as we have public meetings.
Sorry.
As we have public meetings and we post our videos on YouTube and anything is spoilable, et cetera, we are starting to see, or we have seen, there are AI scraping sites. There's some that are really neat that do a really great job of a lot of public meetings, and there's others that kind of take an editorial spin. And so one line can get turned into an entire article, and it's causing parents to call and just kind of becoming an issue. I think part of it is that's something we can't control. But I also think it's a theme that I've kind of seen is it's not media training for board members at public meetings, but there is something interesting of I don't know if it's a generational thing or not, or whatnot, but I sometimes I think people forget that we are communicating in public that is then recorded or put on YouTube, and nothing defamatory, but just anyways, I don't know what that is exactly, but I just put that out there as a thought of some sort of media-like training for communicating and how you communicate things transparently, but in a way. And it's just really interesting with these AI scraping sites. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Andrea?
Hi, everyone. I'll keep my report very short today. Just some quick personnel updates. We are hiring a new assistant district manager.
Interesting.
And we are also transitioning like a freelance community associate to a more part-time permanent position. This role primarily deals with SLA applications and the inundation we have. So we thought this was the right decision to kind of give it more stability. We are also setting some goals for ourselves around strategic planning. We're going to be focusing on three different things but ideally before the end of the year, which is we have a yearly timeline. I'm not sure if every board has this, but my DM came up with this a few years ago, and it kind of goes month by month. And then we're going to build out a kind of a more ancillary sort of report about what everything means, so that when 2027 comes around and we have a lot of our committee chairs are going to be turned out, we'll have kind of more. It'll be a little bit of a more seamless transition. And then we're also going to revise our committee chair handbook. It's a little bit long, and I want to make sure people read it. So we're kind of revising those and taking a look at those over the next few months. And then, yeah, thank you, Tammy, for putting together spearheading the forum. Yeah. First spearheading that. And then this past like I think it was last week, we had a street co-naming for Jimmy Carter, who personally helped build many of the Habitat for Humanity buildings on 6th Street in our community district, which was really well attended and a really bright spot for our community board this month. So thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Jessica?
I'm going to start with, you talked about the trainings and the idea of outreach and getting more, thinking about languages. One of the things we've seen in our public hearings, and given a very large NYCHA project happening in our district, is the need for translation services. All city agencies are required to provide it, but we don't necessarily have a budget for simultaneous translation. And so we'll be elevating that likely in our district needs this year, but would just also wanted to make that point clear that we want all those people there, but if they can't communicate clearly and we can't all hear and understand each other, then it actually has the opposite impact than that we're looking for. The other thing I wanted to flag is that our office, our lease was expired. We were on an extension. We have a new lease at the film center. The building is not yet ready for us, and so we are currently without an office, which is deeply problematic and was very I guess time consuming is like the least of it to figure this out. We work very closely with DCAS. I would say it's really a challenge, and if any of you ever have to deal with this, like at least talk to our district manager, Jesse Bodine, because we tried to do WeWork, we tried to do all kinds of things. We wound up moving to the cloud entirely, which if you're not already, you should really do. And frankly, there should be guidance for not just Manhattan Borough Board, like Manhattan district offices, but for all of them about how to handle and what to do to prepare for working in remote settings or how to handle lease changes. It was very, very disruptive, and in part, given just the lean staff that we already have and the many issues, means like other real work isn't getting done because we're focused on dealing with lease negotiations and packing up boxes. Like it was such a bad use of time. But anyway, so we're currently without an office. Luckily, we were able to find space in another building to use that for public meetings. But again, very, very challenging. The NYCHA issue continues for Fulton, Elliott, Chelsea. We wrote a letter in September outlining the things that we want to still see in the project, expressing deep concerns. Residents are beginning to move already, and demolition is expected to begin on 6 buildings as early as January 2026, if not sooner. So there are lawsuits, there's a lot happening around this. We are having a meeting tonight. We invited Mark or a representative to come. It's a small private meeting. Happy to talk more about that, but would love to have someone from the borough president's office there. Elections, very quickly. We also are about to begin our election cycle. My term will end in December. January will be a new chair. Our statement of district needs, we did a new survey format this year, we did a new effort to get out the survey. We realized we were just hearing from like the people who were already affiliated with the board and who we already hear from. And so we had West 42nd Street News do a piece on it, and we've had over 500 responses. It's a very brief survey. It basically says like, what do you care about? But it'll at least allow us some additional feedback in ways that we think are helpful. We have a new member toolkit that's nearly complete, and as soon as it's done, we'll be glad to share it with others. I think it's a really beneficial tool. Obviously, some things unique to our board, but generally I think will be helpful. We have a lot of I'm sure you've heard the news about Gateway and Trump saying that project isn't going forward. We have the Port Authority bus terminal. We have like a lot of big projects that so clearly have, are in his crosshairs right now. And I'm sure you all do too, but it'll be very interesting to see where that moves forward. And then lastly, I think we've mentioned we have a housing plan. We're doing a briefing for our board this week about how to use our housing plan and what it means. I believe it's going to be recorded and would be happy to share that with others. I think there's been interest in that as a tool. And again, it's on our website, so anybody can look at it in the meantime.
Thank you.
So we are also surprisingly going into election season again. Next cycle will be the elections. I'm running unopposed, so I will see you all next month. We adjusted our calendar as of this last meeting to allow a greater time between when resolutions are sort of screened and collected and sort of read at exec to when it goes to the full board, to give members longer time with the resolutions to try to streamline our full board process. So that'll go into effect starting the January cycle. So we're looking forward to that. In the district, Penn Station, we just last meeting passed a letter kind of framed off of one similar that CB4 did for the expansion of the public realm around the Penn Station, because we understand the RFP for that is probably going to be coming up by the end of the year. So that's kind of on our radar, and also something that maybe we should talk about how to coordinate across. I know our chairs do a lot of that as well, but maybe from a board perspective would be good too. Less exciting in the Penn Station area, we're also going to be looking at, I think at our city services and quality of life, that concerning policing that is going on in the Amtrak bathrooms, profiling people. Yeah, we have that letter as well, so we'll probably try and frame it off of that as well. But essentially people are just being arrested for looking somewhat gay in a bathroom in Penn Station. So Yeah, there's like been news articles about it. People have been profiled as possibly cruising in a bathroom just for, taking too long at the urinal. So something we'll be looking at and passing a letter on probably in our next cycle. The district needs survey is also going, or district needs statement is also going for us. It's interesting to hear that you were able to get so many responses because we did a survey and got very few responses. Always a challenge in CB5 since we don't have as many kind of established residents as some of the other boards, but any tactics like that, like putting things in the newspaper or where other boards have had success, would be very helpful for us to hear. And then lastly, we are going to be taking up, we initially tried to do it as part of the Midtown, the MSMX rezoning, and then it sort of was deemed out of scope. And so we've been sort of grappling with how to deal with it, but the hotel special permit process. So we'll be looking at that at our land use meeting this coming week. So I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sam?
We also have elections coming up and no one ran against me, so I tried. Actually, we're not having any elections. Every post, we didn't even fill one post, so. But we're having a meeting with city planning today regarding their study for our district. This is outside of the Manhattan plan, we hope. That's the goal. We had a very good meeting with the new DOT Manhattan Borough President, Danielle Zuckerman, just discussing issues that we saw in our neighborhood and thanking them for 34th Street and some of the bike lanes that they've incorporated. Our new interim park is moving forward, and this is like an all-time record. The cars left at the end of August. We'll be able to use it this fall, and it's currently at the PDC. So this is record-breaking time for new public space. Charter revisions. Our vice chair sent around some notes about charter revisions, but it's been extremely difficult to find people who are willing to talk about the facts and not opinions. So, and what we really wanted to do was just present the facts. Unfortunately, you have to dive really deeply to find the facts, and it's just been, and it has to be done by October 25th. So we've opted to just send out a series of notifications of where you can find more information. But which is too bad, unless we have a surge of, desire to do it, it's going to be extremely difficult. So, if anybody does.
Did you find facts?
Well, if you go to the charter revision book and the Furman Center, well, the Furman Center's opinion as well. So no, it's really difficult. It's extremely difficult. So.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Alex.
Yes,
Welcome.
we just finished the election. I'm the new incoming chair for Community Board 7. Thank you.
Welcome.
We have our district manager back, which is also good, or he'll be starting at the end of the month again. We had first of our second series of meetings about West Park Presbyterian Church, which is having an LPC hardship application. So I think that's quite rare. That'll be interesting to see how our board votes and what happens with that. But yeah, happy to be here.
Welcome again. Thanks. I know Valerie's not here, so I'll pass it over to you.
Yes, good morning all. We have a resolution that's presenting tonight regarding the charter revisions, proposals 2, 3, and 4, which we think are very vital. So we're pushing that hard with electeds as well. And on that note, we have a building on Amsterdam Avenue, 145th Street that HPD was turning over to a developer without going to Europe. It took us 2 years to fight that. And right now we're in the process going to the Europe process. We had a public hearing last Wednesday at City College. We had over 100 people in attendance in person. We had 60 people online. Varying opinions, mostly strongly against, being that's oversaturation. They want to put a supportive housing building there with some affordable housing as well. But 2 blocks away, they're building a family shelter. 1 block from there, there's a drug treatment program. Half a block down, there is another supportive housing. So I've been calling NIMBY and kicked off the board basically and, reinstated. But we're just saying not everything in our backyard, it's just abundance of things there. So we've been really fighting that very hard and trying to push back and see if we can get more affordable housing if they're going to go ahead with it. True affordable housing, not at 60%. And HPD will be at our board meeting tonight. They've come and done some walkthroughs. They're actually doing a walkthrough this afternoon. We're going to show them all the facilities that are already in place that are there impacting. And this place is going to be across the street from a school, a block away from a library, and a daycare center. So it's a big district. We can spread it out a bit. So that's been a real fight there. I spoke at Columbia last Saturday about the gates being reopened. The gates at Columbia are still closed. They are letting some people through with a QR code if you live in close proximity there, but it's still a hardship for a lot of people going 4 blocks around to get to the train or get to work. So we're pushing that. I've done a couple of interviews with the Columbia Spectator. We're pushing this as well. So hoping we can get more access to Columbia. I can't even get in at this point, so see. We had a meeting regarding the automatic public toilets. They're looking to install one of those on 12th Avenue in our district. We weren't happy totally with the site, but it's better than nothing. We have the Harlem Pier, where a lot of people come with no toilets. It took 2 years to get porta potties there, fighting with parks to get that in, which we do have now. But the automatic public toilet, I think, will be a good thing. Self-cleaning, and door opens, closes in 15 minutes.
How do you pay for it?
Question. Not sure. I'm not sure about that.
There's a conversation of coins versus swipe and how that works for those who don't have.
You mean for the toilet?
Mhm.
As far as I know, it's free toilet.
Free?
Free. Oh, that's what I was assuming.
But
Yeah,
typically they have somebody take care of it, like the one at Greeley Square, there's someone,
twice a day.
no, this is
service.
somebody who stands at the
An
door.
attendant.
Oh, attendant.
An attendant, yeah,
Okay, I'll bring that up.
yeah,
Take a
it's
look,
probably,
yeah. It's 12th Avenue is sort of a desolate area, and I was concerned about safety as far as lighting, and the area they picked was a little out of the way. There's a 125th Street is very active, people going to the pier, and we had suggested that there was some underground plumbing and electricity issues, so we're still taking a look at that, but it's a start. Have a meeting coming up next week with the new DOT Borough Commissioner, Ms. Zuckerman, to speak about a couple of projects in the area. We have a viaduct project that's been going on for 5 years, and now it's at a standstill. So I'm just hoping to push that forward. And that is, I also attended the Bill Perkins street co-naming, which was fantastic. I mean, the amount of people and dignitaries that showed up was very nice to honor that man. And that's kind of it for me.
Thank you so much. All right, I think that's all of our chair reports. So with that, unless someone has anything else, I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
It's great to be back. Good to see all of you. And take care.
Thanks.
do you have your place?